Shavua Tov. That means have a good week. Shabbat has gone out a few minutes ago, and what I'd like to share with you is so big and so wonderful that I hope that I'm able to explain it clearly and not trip over my tongue. I'm pretty excited. My name is Doreen Ellen Bell Dotan. I live in Sfat in Israel, and some very, very amazing events are happening and are going to continue to happen and will happen. I've been sharing information with you about these things in accordance with their emergence in the physical world, because if I were to explain it before it happens, I think that it would sound maybe like too mystical, and I don't want it to sound mystical. I want to talk about it in terms of actuality. And so I let the events happen, and then we can talk about what the inner meaning of it is once it's seen, and without having our imaginations running away with us. Recently, scientists have been picking up very, very high levels of what they call gamma rays, hitting not only Earth, but our entire solar system. And that's very good, because that way they know that it's not coming out of anybody's laboratory. Some of the effects that we're seeing, we might be able to attribute to some of the, if you can't bedazzle them with brilliance, baffle them with bullshit kind of stuff, and maybe stuff that DARPA can do. But DARPA is well aware of the fact that they are not yet at the level of being able to flood the entire solar system with cosmic rays. So they know it's not them. It ain't me, babe. You think the Russians can do this? No, I don't think the Russians can do it either. Maybe it's the Brits. No, I don't think so. I think that... So they're being confronted with a power that is clearly far greater than anything that they can even imagine. And they're terrified, which is good, because they need to be unceremoniously brought down from their high arrogant horses and misuse of knowledge and power. On the 19th of this month, all of the stars are going to align on what is, from our perspective, the right side of the sun. Jews don't do astrology, at least we're not supposed to. So what I'm talking to you about is not astrology. It's actually from the level of those who are able to direct the courses of the suns and the planets. Planet doesn't mean that it's a flat plane. Planet means that it's a certain plane of reality. I talked before about the fact that Earth is neither round nor flat. The fact that it's called a plane, planet, doesn't mean that it's flat. It means that it is a certain level of reality. I want to read something to you in Hebrew. I'll translate it. But this is one of the greatest blessings that Hashem ever dictated to a prophet. And I want the sound waves to go out in Hebrew. And then I'll translate what it means. I'm reading from Yeshayahu Hanavi, Isaiah the prophet, Lammott Kafaf 30:26, chapter 30, verse 26. In the holy books, even the numbers of the chapters and the verses are meaningful in and of itself. Lamed, which is the chapter 30, is the name Yehuda, and the verse Kaf Vav, that is the gematria of the Tetragrammaton. So this is going to be very powerful. Vahaya o halavana. I want to go back and do that again. Vahaya o halavana. There's a diacritical point in the Lammott, and I want to pronounce it. Vahaya o halavana ki o hachama, ve'o hachama yihye shiv'atayim ki o shiv'atayim b'yom chavash Hashem et sheva amo umachatz makato Yerapeh. And what it's saying is very, very on a most simple level, because it's so deep I could just, like, for hours, and I wouldn't even begin to get past the surface. Simply what it says is, and the light of the moon will be like the light of the sun, and the light of the sun will be 7 times like the light of the 7 days. It's 7 days of creation, but Shivat HaYamim is also the 7 seas. On the day that Hashem binds up the brokenness of his people and heals the wound of its having been crushed. We are in those days. We can see that there are things that are happening in creation that we have not seen before. I have a dear friend that I met through the internet, but I consider her a real friend, in Sweden. And she sent me a picture of the moon one night, and she said to me, "Doreen, look at the moon. It looks like the sun. If it wasn't for the fact that it was dark outside, I would think it was the sun." And it was really remarkable. By the way, Acharit HaYamim does not mean the end of days. That is a mistranslation. First of all, again, days and oceans are the same word, they're just punctuated slightly differently. You can be pretty sure that you're not getting out of here until you've reached the level of understanding the Mariana Trench of wisdom. So don't think that this is the end. Not yet, folks. You haven't been dismissed from class yet. I'm going to tie in what I just said with something else, because these are 2 events that culminated together. That I knew that they were coming, but I didn't know how, and my teachers just put it together. There's no middle ground with President Trump. He's either absolutely brilliant, like with the way he handled the NATO meeting and putting Germany in its place and saying, you know, what is this nonsense? So, like, Russia is supplying 60 to 70% of your fuel, and you're trying to tell me that this is a NATO meeting. And he can also be stupendously stupid. Like when he said that we are going to reassert our dominance in space, and we're going to tame the frontiers because that's what we do. And when he said that, I just, swallowed real hard and went, uh-oh, this is not going to go unanswered, because that is not the approach to space, okay? That is not the way we venture out into the great, much bigger and unknown. The word for heavens in Hebrew is shamayim, which is equal in value to sfarim, which means both books and frontiers. The value of it, which is 950, is netz, which is the first light of day, right? Like Tfilat Netz, the prayer of the Netz, is right before the first light comes out at night. And it's also the gematria of Ohev Shalom, which is the one who loves peace. And it's also Shalom David, the peace of David, the peace of the one who loves. One does not venture out into that with like, here we come. So I knew that something was going to, that was not going to go unanswered. And sure enough, scientists started picking up the cosmic rays on their detectors. And there's like, wait a second, you mean all of the protective layers have been breached and we're being bombarded with cosmic rays? And they started like scanning as much as they could of the solar system, and they see that like the whole solar system is bathed in cosmic rays, and they flipped out. And I started laughing because many traditions have a tradition of a hidden light, an unrevealed light, a black star. By the way, in Hebrew, the word shachor, which is black, is also shachar, which is dawn. So there's this tradition of this light that is going to, it isn't seen, it is going to be revealed. And that's what's happening with these cosmic rays. I've spoken before about the fact that the Jews create the light when we learn Torah. I'm going to get a little bit more into that now, and so I can explain what the difference is between the light that we can see and the light that we can't see, and the differences in the power ranges of the spectrum. The word in Hebrew for light is or, aleph vav resh, or. It's pronounced like the word or like or, O-R-E also, because actually we do mine that light. There are many jewels in that light, and learning is essentially mining that light, going down into the depths of it and getting the diamonds and rubies and emeralds of wisdom out of it, going down into the depths and getting the pearls. Shlomo HaMelech, the King Shlomo, speaks about peninim, about pearls. That's exactly it, diving down and getting it out. And this is what we do. That word, oh, I will be discussing a lot of the internal truth of what light is on my Facebook group, Decoding Christianity. I'll leave a link to it, Bezrat Hashem, and you might want to take a look at that. The word or, which is light, as I said, is contained in the word boe, or boet, which is to create in the singular. Boe is in the masculine singular, boet is the feminine singular. So the word boe, which means to create, it can also be read as biur, which means clarification or elucidation. Be'ero, which means his well, right? So again, we going down to get the waters out, right? Waters of wisdom. And it's also be'o, in the light itself. So that is what it is to create in Hebrew. Another word that o is in is ro'eh, which means the one who sees. Ro'ah is the feminine. Ro'eh is masculine singular. Ro'ah is feminine singular. And the same letters in a different order is ha'or, which is the light. So the light and the one who sees are one and the same. It's different configurations of the same being. Another word that the word O is contained in is kore, or koret, which means to call or to read. The Hebrew word for calling or reading is kriyat, kriyath. That's your word, create. That's exactly it. This is what I said to you, that the creation is the reading itself, is the calling into being. The word kore contains the word boe, to create, and another value of 98, tzach. So it's be'or tzach, which means in a pure light, which is kore. It's also borei munach, creating a term which has meaning, is also, we create the meanings. And this is precisely what the light that we can see is. To the best of our ability to read, to understand what we've read, we create light, and that light to us is the visible range. The light that is not in the visible range to us, but which we know exists, we can feel it, although we cannot see it. We can pick it up, although we can't see in that light yet, is that which the Jews have learned, but have not consciously understood, but subconsciously. So the light that is available, the light that is seen, is what we are consciously aware of when we learn. When we're learning the things that we have not yet learned, our subconscious mind, our higher levels of being have picked up and are holding in a kind of fund which we can tap into when we're ready. It's sort of like when your mother sets up like a closed bank account for you, which will come, you can tap into it when you're 18 years old. Until then, it's just in the fund. You're not old enough to know what to do with it when you're 3 years old. And she's always depositing into it. It is also growing interest. And by the time that fund becomes available to you to be able to tap into, you not only get your principal, you get your interest. Well, it's exactly the same thing with learning. So that which we call the dark light, that which we call the unseen parts of the spectrum, are precisely that. That which our subconscious has kept in store for us. In store is called ganuz. This is what we call oha ganuz, the light that is stored. And this is the light that will start to reveal itself slowly. This is what is happening. So the cosmic rays that are hitting the earth now are precisely that. These are the levels of knowledge of all of the Jews that have learned Torah throughout all of the generations that were stored, which are now being revealed. Is that going to change our DNA? Yes. Is that going to damage our DNA? No. And I'm going to get to that after I explain one more thing. So yes, our DNA is going to be changed by that. We don't need to be afraid, because this is not the same thing as someone in a laboratory who doesn't know what they're doing, exposing an experimental subject to X-rays or gamma rays. This is not the same thing. This is perfectly controlled wisdom. In our world, there are different levels of people who read, right? There are those who are not yet old enough to even have begun to read, and then there are those who have begun to read. There are those who remain illiterate or semi-literate. There are those who begin to learn with alacrity. There are those who then go on to learn grammar and syntax, and they can become editors. A very, very good editor, like my husband, for instance, can edit something that you write, and an editor always works with the lightest hand possible. They don't use a shovel where just a light brush is necessary. A good editor will return what you wrote back to you, edited such that you say to yourself, that's what I meant to say. I wasn't able to express myself that clear. My husband has this incredible gift for doing this. He can edit what I write in Hebrew so that when I read it, I go, yeah, that's what I meant. And above the level of the editors are those who keep the libraries and those who keep the archives. In Hebrew, the word for archive is archion. You hear arch in it. Those are the people that are called, those are the beings that are called archangels. They're not exactly angels in the way in which Christians understand that. They are the keepers of the archives. They have all of the books of history in all of its various versions, and they also have the edited versions. So they have the incorrect versions and they have the corrected versions, the edited versions, and they are the keepers of that archion, which is very similar to the Hebrew word for memory, storage of memory, which is zikaron. You can hear that the aleph and the vav become a zayin, and that is essentially the same concept, the same word. The people, the beings who have arrived on Earth, who are taking the form that scientists are picking up as cosmic rays, are those who have the ability to be able to read Torah such that when they read, they create on what's visible light to them that we call cosmic rays. That is the level of light that they're on. Now, if you listen to the scientists, and by the way, I'll link to a couple of videos of scientists that are kind of freaked out by this, listen to their interpretation of what they're seeing, because their interpretation is not correct, but listen to what their experience is. They say that gamma rays result when very, very, very heavy radioactive isotopes break down, and when they break down, energy is released, and those are the gamma rays. Well, what's actually happening is the Hebrew for to break up, to break down is parek, or lehit parek, is to break down. Now, a perek is a passage in Torah. So what's actually happening is when people on that level of God consciousness read a passage in Torah, the way in which they crack the meaning of that releases light on the level that we experience as cosmic rays, which, if we don't know what they are, can be very terrifying, because they are, to our technology, completely uncontrollable. The beings who have come to this world dressed as gamma rays, as cosmic rays, and that is a dressing that they are taking on. They're taking on, this is what's beautiful about them, they're showing you their power, but the way in which they do it is so humble. They're coming up with just little particles. We're just cosmic dust. That's just exactly it, the dust. People ask me who my teachers are, and I hesitate to answer, because if I were to answer my teachers are the dust, you would say, whoa, this lady has lost it. But when you begin to understand what the dust is, when you begin to understand what cosmic dust is, it starts to make sense. And now that the planet is being flooded with cosmic waves, and they're actually going to touch you gently. You won't even feel that you're being touched, but their touch will transform you. You understand what that cosmic dust is, and then it will upgrade matter. There's going to be a tremendous uptick of the matter in the planet. We're also seeing huge dust storms, by the way. Which means the topography of the Earth is going to change. Yes, they are going to change your DNA. But I was speaking about editing. At the souls that are able to produce light in the cosmic range are the editors of the Book of Life. They are able to, they don't change the text, but they edit the interpretations. The forms that we take and the forms that our lives take are the forms that are our interpretation of Torah. To the best of our ability to have understood Torah, we built our bodies, we built our lives, we built matter, we built our interpretations. They have come to edit that for us. So yes, they're going to change their DNA, but what that means is they are going to edit our interpretation of Torah, our interpretation of the Book of Life, such that it is edited better. And as I said about my husband, a good editor works with the lightest hand possible, and you are shown the finished product, and you can look at it and say, yeah, this was edited really well, this is what I meant, maybe this you can change, and they'll re-edit it in accordance with our will. So it's not that our will is going to be overridden forcefully. They are simply going to edit our interpretation of the Book of Life such that we become more like what we meant to be. If you look around you, you see that most people are swamped in misunderstanding, in misinterpretation, in negative interpretations. And that is all cracking up around us. The floods are washing it away, and the earth is cracking. All of that heavy crust is cracking up and falling off. We're not just going to be left in a world that's disintegrating. They are going to help us reintegrate it into the version of the Book of Life which is far more in keeping with what our soul meant on a given level, so that we can continue from that point, from a much healthier, exacting, clarified, elucidated calling out of the creation of ourselves, of our bodies, and of the worlds in which we're living in, and our interactions one with the other. Take a look at those videos, please, about the cosmic rays. Listen to what they're saying, not because their interpretation is correct. Try to get through that. It is extremely important to let go of our expectations of how these events are going to unfold. It's very important that we let go of the images in our imagination in order to be able to understand the events that are coming. This is not the preamble to the Messianic age. This is not the tribulation before the revelation. This is the revelation. And if you're not seeing that, it's not because this is not the revelation. It's because you're insisting upon your interpretations and trying to force the revelation of something that is way, way beyond our current understanding into our understanding, and that's just not going to go. If you think that chamor lavan means a white donkey, it's not that Torah isn't correct. Mashiach is going to come on chamor lavan, but you're not understanding what Mashiach is, and you're for sure not understanding what chamor lavan is if you think it's a white donkey. So Torah is not a book of primitive ideas. It is we that have to give up our primitive interpretations and accept it on its own terms. The beings that are arriving now are not God. They are not to be prayed to. They are not to be made into, God forbid, some kind of a religion in and of themselves. They are most certainly God's oldest besties, most trusted friends and members, but that's still not God. And let's keep things clear. Even science tells us that cosmic rays move at close to the speed of light. The particles moving at close to the speed of light, not at the speed of light. What they actually mean by that is they have not yet attained infinite mass, which means they are not the perfect translation of Hashem in and of itself into the translation. So let there be no equivocation. These beings are great and deserving of respect and awe, and please accept these loving guests into your hearts with joy, but understand that they are not God. They're teachers. They are madrichim. They're how do you say madrichim? Instructors, not really instructors, guides. They are guides. Respect them, love them, do not worship them. Listen now. I am a really extreme introvert, and that is very good, and I thank God for giving me that, because being introverted the way I am, I can't, I don't have the kind of personality it takes to start some kind of a cult following. Somebody put a meme on Facebook. I loved it. They wrote, my guests understand when my cat hides under the bed when they arrive. Why don't they understand when I do it? I could so totally go with that. I just totally understand that. I am an extreme introvert. What that means is that I love everybody straight up. I don't like everybody. I don't let everybody into my space. My personal space is sterile. Only those that I feel are not going to frankly bring contaminants into it are allowed in. That doesn't mean that I don't value those people. It doesn't mean that I don't love them. It just means that I know what I need to keep myself safe from. So I accept very, very few friends and followers on my work on Facebook. Yeah, I mean, you can watch it, follow it if you want to, but I really can't accept a lot of friends. I can't handle it. And that's a very, very good thing, because by me being that way, I can't become anybody's guru. And that is maybe the best gift that Hashem ever gave me, so that I'm able to give over information without getting in your way. I know that a lot of religious leaders all through the generations have encouraged people to come to them and consult with them and talk with them and share with them, and I can't even handle that kind of weight, and I don't want it, and some of the, like with personal information, embarrasses the hell out of me. This is between you and God, not between you and me. And the fact that I can give information like this to you on a video does not mean really that I want you to like touch me. I tried that. I tried to like accept a lot of friends on Facebook and hoping I could, and it doesn't work. I can't handle it. I'm sorry. There are very few people that I can really allow to touch me, good or bad. That's the way it is. But the good side of it is that that leaves people who might ordinarily become dependent on someone else to have to develop an independent relationship with Hashem, which I think is really the way it should be. So Hashem built me not to be able to carry your weight, so that you can carry your weight and enter into the direct relationship with Hashem that you should have. So it's a gift, even though it sounds not nice, right? I'm sorry. That's just the way it is. Thank you for listening. And the events that are coming are going to be gargantuan and colossal and maybe even overwhelming. Don't be afraid. You're in really, really good hands. So thank you for listening, and establish your own relationship with God. I'm not your Rebbe. You know, just talk to Hashem directly. No junior partners. There aren't any junior partners. I'm grateful for having this handicap that doesn't allow people to become dependent on me. It's a gift. So do your own thing. And if I feel that it's necessary, I'll make another video. Let's see how things play out, and then we'll know what we need to talk about or not.